Text 21. That is his form, beyond desires, free from evils, and fearless. As a man fully embraced by his beloved wife does not know anything at all, either external or internal, so does this infinite being, self, fully embraced by the Supreme Self, not know anything at all, either external or internal. That is his form, in which all objects of desire have been attained and are but the self, and which is free from desires and devoid of grief. Shankaracharya's commentary. Now, liberation in the form of identity with all, which is the result, devoid of action with its factors and results, of knowledge, and in which there is no ignorance, desire, or work, is being directly pointed out. This has already been introduced in the passage where, falling asleep, it craves no desires and sees no dreams, in paragraph 19. That this identity with all, which has been spoken of as this highest state, is his form, beyond desires, attained. Namaste. So what follows is an explanation of the grammatical interpretation of this word attained. I don't think we need to go into that. The important part is he knows nothing, either internal or external. Why is that? Because in identity with all, Brahman, there is no object, only the subject, I am. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Now, many people parrot this statement and misuse it as an excuse not to perform sadhana, or not to study the sacred literature, or not to do puja or worship of anything. And of course, this is a mistake, because unless one's mind is perfectly pure, knowing that I am Brahman is basically useless. It's only words. And we meet many, many people, the Neo-Advaitas, of course, and even the official swamis and gurus and people like this, who say these words, but their being shows they don't understand it. I don't know how many of you were paying attention. When I was in India the last time, I went to Jagannath Puri, and I had an appointment to meet with the Shankaracharya of Puri, Shankaracharya's direct disciplic descendant. And as soon as I walked in and his secretary saw me, he, his jaw hit the floor. And he said he had to go in the back room for a minute and confer with his boss, I guess. And then he came out and he said, "I'm very sorry, but the Shankaracharya can't see you." And he made up some lame excuse, But I know what it really was. He can't see you because you're a white guy. You're a foreigner. And there's this old Indian belief, because it's not Vedic. And it's certainly not, Hindu, because Hindu is a Persian word. It's a racial insult. It has nothing to do with the actual culture of India, which is Vedic. Anyway, there is a folk belief that somehow or other, everybody born beyond the boundaries of India is inevitably unclean and ignorant and nasty and must not be allowed into the presence of anything sacred. Like they wouldn't allow me in the temple there either, Jagannath Puri. And this is very famous, no foreigners allowed. And they have big guards, stationed at the doors and everything, just to keep everybody out except, the blessed, pure ones. Isn't that ridiculous? When I was corresponding with the Shankaracharya's secretary, we were talking about Advaita and this and that, and it was fine. Obviously, I passed his test of having a proper understanding, but simply on racial grounds, simply based on the country of my birth, he would exclude me from the personal audience with the Shankaracharya. So is this the behavior of a person who realizes all is Brahman? I don't think so. Because he's making a discrimination based on some material quality. So, this is really something deep. And it's something that most of the people who claim to study or know Advaita really don't get at all. That in complete realization of Brahman, there is no knowledge, there is no knowing, there is no perception, there is no consciousness. Because to have consciousness, you have to have an object. And to have an object, you have to have something different. And there is no differences in Brahman. Brahman is complete and pure, it's whole, it's one. So you can't have consciousness, you can't have knowing. Like that famous verse in chapter 2 of Bṛhadāraṇyakopaniṣad, that when there is duality, as it were, in other words, duality, so-called duality, which is actually illusion, which is Maya, it doesn't really exist. But anyway, when there's duality, as it were, one sees something, hears something, smells, tastes, feels, thinks, and knows something through the various organs. But when one realizes that everything is Brahman, then what is there to see and through what? What is there to hear, smell, taste, touch, think, and know, and through what? And saying these words, Yajnavalkya left home for the forest. You see, because if you really realize this stuff, you understand or you directly see that all in this world is false. How else could it be? What else is possible? Let me talk a little bit about my experience. Since about 2018, when I got third path realization, I know, I directly experience, I am not this body. This is not myself. This is not who I am. Neither the mind nor the intelligence, nor even the consciousness. Who am I? I am Brahman. What does that mean? There is really no external or internal perception, no consciousness, no knowing. Take a look from a higher perspective, like zoom out, zoom out and run the impressions, the memories that you have of this whole experience in your body. This body is born, a tiny, screaming little infant, and then it goes through so many changes, If you fast forward through that, You see this, this thing wiggling and squirming and running around, and then, going to school and studying and maybe getting married and taking the job and getting a house and having all these things, and then everything gradually goes away and the whole thing winds down. Everything that one once had is gradually lost, and finally it dies. That's the story of this body in fast forward. And the same is true of the mind. Remember the thoughts that were in your mind when you were just a youngster. And then fast forward through all those stages of learning this and that, and believing this and that, and thinking this and that, and knowing something and nothing. And finally coming to the stage where you realize that you don't really know anything at all. Because it's always changing. Just like the body. If the body's always changing and the mind is always changing, then what is real? The world? Come on. Look at the world. I can remember when Eisenhower was president, and then it was Nixon, and then it was somebody else, and then it was this other guy. Every 4 years or 8 years. And then look at how the economy has changed. Look at stores, for example. I used to go shopping with my parents in a big store in the next town over called Bamberger's. Now it's named something else. It's the same company, though. Anyway, in those days, the store had wooden floors, which were covered with sawdust. And you got to actually talk to the produce guy and talk to the butcher and pick out the stuff that you wanted. And most of the food was canned. It was still like a wartime economy. And there was all this canned food that had been made very cheaply and was sitting there on the shelf. I'm sure we all had lead poisoning and various environmental toxins. I mean, just down the road in Hoboken and Secaucus were these big chemical plants, and we used to get, noxious aromas from them at all hours of the night. And I'm sure we were all environmentally, poisoned, what to speak of the air pollution. There was no such thing as, what are those mufflers called? Catalytic mufflers? There were no such thing as emission guidelines. So, there was smog 24 hours a day hanging over the New York City area. I'm sure we all got a hefty dose of toxins, And now, then look at how the population has grown. Look at how all the issues in politics have changed. Politicians come and go, issues come and go, economic cycles come and go. I mean, everything comes and goes. War, peace, everything. It's all temporary. And if you do a fast forward on your life and you go through the whole thing, I mean, even the Earth's climate is changing perceptibly within a lifetime. So that's not permanent. That's not real either. This world is an illusion. The body is an illusion. The mind is an illusion. The intelligence. I mean, look at the intelligence. Compare what you know now and the way you think and evaluate things with when you were a child. And look at all the stages and changes you've gone through in your life. None of this is reliable. None of this is sane. None of it is real. It's all just like Plato described in his simile of the cave. Shadows projected on the wall, and we're making up stories about it. I mean, just this whole human civilization is nothing but a big pile of stories, fabricated stories, pretexts to incite a certain kind of action. a certain kind of behavior. Consider a race, for example, a foot race, a running race. What is a race? These guys all line up on the starting blocks. Somebody fires a phony pistol, bang. And then they all run until they reach the finish line. And then the one who gets there first is the winner, and he gets a prize or award or something. The whole thing is made up. It's just to create a pretext, a reason to get people to run. Isn't it? The whole situation is completely artificial. It's a story. And similarly, our whole social structure, our whole economic structure, our whole religion and everything is simply a bunch of stories designed to get you to behave in a certain way. Now, in the case of Vedic religion, this is also true. A lot of these stories about different gods and goddesses and stuff that happened long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, these are all stories. At best, they're metaphors for some metaphysical reality to help us understand how it works, like a model. But at worst, they're simply made up stories, to get us to pray at night. Or, just like you make up a story to get your child to take a medicine or something like that, right? See, these are all pretexts just to inspire or start or a certain type of behavior that is considered desirable. So, we live in a world of illusion, and it's all temporary. Even if you go to higher planets, you can go to higher and higher and higher planets in subsequent births, consequent to the karma that you generate in this birth. So you can go to the highest world, Shiva Loka, Shri Loka, Shakti Loka, the highest planets in the so-called pure creation, which is actually Saguna Brahman. And those worlds and those beings live for the entire length of the material creation, which is some incredibly long period of time. But from their point of view, this is what started this. I was in meditation and I went to see my lion, my Ishtadevata. And he was talking about, from his point of view, a human life is about the length of an afternoon. Because their time is like 1,000 times bigger than our time. So 1 year on those heavenly lokas is like 1,000 years on planet Earth. One afternoon in that world is 100 years, a whole human lifetime. Here. See? So from their point of view, this is all like going in fast motion, time-lapse photography. They look at it and they see, all these human beings running around like little wiggling worms on this planet, coming and going. And just like when we uncover a nest of ants or something like that, and we see all these creatures running around, these tiny little things, doing all these incomprehensible stuff for unknown reasons. But for sure, it doesn't impact us at all. It has no meaning for us. It has no value for us. I guess unless we're, entomologists or something. But for the average person, to watch, a million ants running around is like, what does this mean? Are they willing to negotiate? Will they get out of my kitchen? No. So there's no meaning, there's no significance to it, no value to it at all. And similarly, for people in the higher planets, this Earth life is over so quickly, and it has such little impact on anything, even on the Earth, that from their point of view, it's meaningless. It's valueless. So, but you can go to these heavenly planets and beyond to the pure creation, to the Saguna Brahman, the world of Devi, of Shri, the goddess. And, you know, if you worship her, become her devotee, and she blesses you, you can enter into her world, and you can live there and do really anything you want for an incredibly long period of time. But even that comes to an end at the Mahapralaya, at the destruction of the material creation. So, what is the use of it all? What is the value of it all? It's just like when you go to the movies and a movie is projected on the screen and it looks very impressive, you know? Full color, IMAX, 3D, whatever, you know? And it looks really impressive. But then at the end of the show, the projector is turned off, the lights come up, and everybody goes home. It's over. And the screen is there just like it was before the movie started, and it's as if the movie never even happened. Nothing changed. There was no impact. Oh yeah, you might have had some temporary sense perceptions, you know, during the film, maybe some emotional reaction or something. But then that dissipates. You walk out into the night, you know, and get in your car, go back to your ordinary life. Nothing has changed. You just wasted a little time and money, that's all. So similarly, when you buy into this life, this existence, thinking I am the body and everything that happens to the body happens to me and everything that's related to the body is mine and so on and so forth. And you have all these activities and relationships and all this stuff. Let me tell you, as an old guy who's been around the block, none of it has any meaning. When it's over, it's over. And it's like it never happened, just like the movie in the theater. You know, I've had so many relationships with so many people and had so many activities and this and that. But where is it all now? It's gone. It's like it never happened. Yeah, maybe there's some memory there. That's all. And, you know, as you get older, your memory atrophies too, or it becomes a lot slower at least. And it's very difficult sometimes to recall these things that happened in the distant past. So, you know, what's the meaning of it all? Is there any value to it? Well, maybe if you make a profound effort for spiritual cultivation, your consciousness will change, or your view of your consciousness will change. And you have made some spiritual advancement. And if you're fortunate, you have collected some subha karma, some good karma. And in the next life, you have certainty from your inner realizations that you're going to a much better place, better quality of life, better association, better knowledge, better senses, everything. And hopefully, if you're intelligent, you won't just party until your karma is used up and then you have to come back again to good old Earth. But you will use the opportunity to cultivate even a higher level of spiritual beingness, awareness, and knowledge. So, of course, the ultimate, like I said, is to go to Shakti Loka, the pure creation, Shiva Loka, these transcendental abodes. But the only reason they're transcendental is that there it is very easy to get the knowledge leading to complete self-realization. Here, oh my God, what a struggle. Anyone who's tried sincerely to reach enlightenment will tell you. It's a big deal, you know? It's a big, big struggle, big effort. But in that world, because you have plenty of time, you don't need to rush things. There's no lack of resources. See, there's no danger from enemies. Those worlds are completely peaceful and safe. So if we can't reach Brahman realization in this lifetime, the next best thing is to aim for Shakti Loka, Shiva Loka. These are highest planets in the universe, and perform the sadhana, perform the bhakti, the worship, the puja, the rituals and so forth that get you there. And of course, the most powerful of all these processes is japa, of the holy name, the nama japa, nama mantra, like Vishnu Sahasranam, Shiva Sahasranam, the Lalita Sahasranam for the goddess. These are extremely powerful, and they can bring you in the next life to a higher world where there's none of the problems we experience here, none of the issues. You know, every time I try to make friends with somebody here, it's like I have to educate them from the kindergarten level in, you know, things like the different types of consciousness and, you know, why do I have all these funny things on this altar in my house? And so, you know, all this stuff. And it adds a whole another level of complexity to relationships that, you know, makes it even harder to sustain them. But in those worlds, everyone is already realized to some degree. That's the criterion for getting in there. You have to be blessed by the goddess and given wisdom and have developed love and given up all anger and selfishness. Those are just the prerequisites, you know, to get in the door. So everybody there is like a perfected being, capable of deep love and total commitment and complete compassion, deep understanding, you know. And so this is the place where we want to go. This is where we want to be. We want to transfer our existence to that realm in the next life. And that is the place where it's very easy to gain the highest realization of pure self-realization or identity with Brahman. Aum Tat Sat. Aum Shakti Aum. Aum Namah Shivaya.